in for my brothers in Christ, Pastor Gambrell and Pastor Clint. Today I come to you with a powerful topic today about biblical values. And I have a really beautiful panel today. I'm going to start off with my co-host, my sister in Christ, Sister Sherelle, Sister Firecracker. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy we co-hosting today. It's gonna be a great show. I'm
All right, all
excited.
right, all right. And coming up with on us on the panel again with us, new to Crucial Dialogue for the first time, I think is Sister Kendra Blaylock. How you doing, Sister Kendra?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, and the field, the final four coming in, a new newbie to Crucial Dialogue, Sister Cherie Hinton. How you doing, Sister Cherie? Welcome to Crucial Dialogue.
I'm doing great. I'm excited to get this convo started.
All right, all right, all right. So we've been out for a couple weeks, and by popular demand, I was asked to guest host a topic about biblical values. And so, I sat down and thought about biblical values, and I know that a lot of people can have a lot of things to say about it, and I'm gonna go across the room, but a few things that I brought up or I looked up that I thought was interesting as just pillars for us to kind of branch off of is community. Community is one of those things that we see all throughout the Bible. Love and trust is another one. Serving others, that's another value that I see highlighted through the Bible. Compassion is another one that I seen, as well as hard work. I think that is exhibited throughout the Bible of, without work, you don't eat. So, and then another one was just forgiveness. So I'm gonna go to Sister Sherelle. What do you think about biblical values?
I think for me, some of the ones that you named I can relate to, like serving and giving. I think those are some biblical values that I can relate to because, I have a giving heart. I like to help people. If I got it and I'm able to give it, I'm definitely going to do that. And serving, I guess that kind of ties in with giving because, like I said, I like to help and, give advice, give information of any kind. So I think that would be my biblical values from a young adult perspective.
All right, Sister Kendra, what you got to say?
I agree with you guys with what you guys have said so far. I don't think I heard love though. I think love.
Well, I just threw some out there. I didn't try to run down them all, but
I was just thinking. I was like, what have I not heard? Because I was just about to
Yeah.
say everything y'all just said. So I was like, what have y'all not said? So yeah, I would say love. Like that's
a
the
good one.
epitome of who Jesus is, and that's what we're called to do is to be loved by Him and to show love to others. So I would definitely say love.
All right, those are good ones. Sister Cherie, what you had something to add?
Love was what I was going to say. I think that love is the most important one because it's what the devil pinpoints the most in our life. So whenever he wants to attack any of us in the world, he aims for that. It's also the hardest thing to do. So definitely love.
I think forgiveness is harder, honestly.
Yeah.
That's the top right there as far as
It's
being
hard.
a human,
Because I can love you all day long, but forgiveness, woo.
So I would like to kind of, expand a little bit on it and ask y'all a question as far as like being young adults in today's society. How do you think that biblical values line up with Christian values and as well as I would say Christian/religion values? Do you think that what the word is saying lines up with the way that we're projected or perceived to act as Christians?
No.
I think that's very individualized. So if you're going to ask personally, I would say no. I definitely feel, just in my experience in life, I feel like I have one foot in the door and one foot out because I think that past is something that can really have a hold on you, and I know that the devil definitely aims to entice you with experiences that you've had in the past, and it makes it hard to follow biblical or the things that God wants us to do. So I think that would depend on who you ask.
All right. Anybody else?
What is the question? Can you say it again?
It's
How do
just
Christian
as young
values line
adults,
up to? Okay, as
and
young
I'm
adults.
looking at it from a young adult's perspective, because
Okay.
I'm one of the first to admit that generationally, and as far as religion is concerned, there tend to be different values, as far
Agreed.
as just how society operates now versus how it used to. And so for
Yeah.
me, when I think about biblical values, as a Christian, I would say that my biblical values are swayed through the Christian religion. You know what I mean? And therefore you kind of bring in some customs and some traditions that's not necessarily biblical. So I was just asking from a young adult's perspective in today's society, how do y'all view the difference between a biblical value and a Christian value? Or is it different? Or should it be?
I don't know if it's different, biblical versus Christian, right? I view them as the same, but I think that young adults have access to an unprecedented amount of information, and it's at our fingertips, like 24/7. Can't get rid of it, and we've grown up with it, right? So we just have been exposed to all this information that when we get to be in our 20s, young adult age, we just start questioning everything, and then we have all this information to consume, and it's a lot. Like before, you had to go to the encyclopedia to find information. You had to go to the library to look something up. You talk to one friend. But now, you get on TikTok, it's like you scroll, you just got 10,000 new ideas that you never even would have thought of. And so anyways, I don't know if that answers the question, but I think we just have so much information, and it just.
So what I'm saying, what I'm hearing is you say is that because of the access of information, and we're trying to keep this towards the biblical values, because of the access to more information now, that the traditions and customs of religion begin to get questioned.
Well, I think I think yes, what you said is true, and I also think that this generation is like the most diverse generation in terms of like race, ethnicity, technology, just everything. There's so many different cultures within the American culture. And so I think young adults are trying to find common ground with everybody. And so, they kind of just want to relate to their friend. And so they, absorb that information. So I think that's some of what's going on too.
All right. We got a question at the bottom from Brother Blaylock. Should the culture influence the reading of the word or vice versa? Should the culture influence the reading of the word or vice versa? So should the culture influence it, or should the world influence the culture? I guess that's what we're asking. Any takers on this question?
That's my husband. I guess I don't know.
I think the culture
So
should.
I would answer.
Influences.
I would say the culture should be the influence of reading the word. I think that traditionally in culture, reading wasn't one of those things that we got excited about doing. I'm not even sure if they're still excited now, but you can get something read to you would be the similar scenario. But back in the past, I think literacy rate was so low that a lot of people was able to be influenced by false doctrines of the word, because they didn't read it themselves. And see, this day and generation, you can fact check things pretty quick. So I understand the struggle of young adults trying to assimilate themselves and stay true to their Christian values, but still embrace other cultures in this world with the same love and honor and respect that God and that Jesus would give us. And so again, we're talking about biblical values. So I just want to I want to get a little deeper into like what's going on out there. You know, y'all are hearing things from other people and out here in this world, and you know, we want to bring more people to Christ. And so, you know, we want to just see if we can drop some nuggets and help people understand that, you know, the struggle is real.
Well, I think it's like we said before, we got access to so much technology that we would rather go look something up versus ask someone else. And then to kind of back up just a tad bit, you said about Christian values. I think that's really generational, because the older generation values going to church. Like, that's not an option. They go to church, they dress up nice, that's a whole thing. I don't think our generation values that as much as they do. We show up or we don't. We more, we're gonna catch it on TV or we got it on our phone. We don't necessarily have to sit in service. But that generation, like, that's just like a little different right there.
So can I ask the question of why? Like, how did that happen? Or in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, honestly, we got a choice. Because when I was younger, I didn't have a choice about if I wanted to stay home from church. I had to go. I knew Sunday, get up. Even when I first went to college, my dad said, whatever you do on Saturday, I don't care, but you better get up and be at church. So, and that's what it was. I didn't have a choice. But I think as we get older and we become more independent, we decide, you know what, I can miss this Sunday. You know what, I can catch the podcast. I can catch the live stream. That still counts. I can online my tithes. It'll be okay. I can miss a day. I think it's just we got lazy and we got technology and we got a choice.
All right. Sister Cherie?
Yes, I agree. I think that the influence of culture has definitely made us lazy. Like Sherelle said, it's easy to say, okay, I'll turn on this sermon, but then you're walking around your house, cleaning, you're cooking, it just gives us distraction. So I wouldn't say that it's a good thing that the culture has influenced our reading of the word. Should it? I guess you could say no, in my opinion.
Wow. So we got another question down from our co-host, Pastor Gambrell. He says that people are more influenced today by false doctrines and false teachers more than ever, and we have higher literacy rates. All right. So first thing, I would I guess question. I don't know if the literacy rate is higher. I know that the young adults write and read in short terms and 30 characters or less is the attention span. So they may be able to read more words, but I'm not sure if the attention span is there to read a book as it was maybe when I was growing up in the 80s, when, like you said, we had to go and get the Dewey Decimal System and find the, do actual research. So I do believe that there are a whole lot more false doctrine and false teachings because the internet don't have the means right now to regulate fake news, if you want to use that term. And so it is a bunch of rabbit holes out there. And this generation coming up, we have to be careful with those rabbit holes and stay grounded in some form of word or church in order to be able to help work your way through. And so, when we talk about those generations of how the values shift, We got to figure out a way to bridge that gap between generations. And God, kind of helped us out a little bit with this COVID thing. A lot of older churches probably wouldn't adapt it to the Zoom technology and virtual learnings if COVID hadn't happened. And so, that kind of sped up a little bit of a bridge, or it helped build a little bit of a bridge for the young adults and the older congregations to still have church and fellowship together. But what I'm hearing from Sherelle is that, or even Kendra, that it's just, life is busy now. I think that back in the day, it wasn't as busy. You got 3 women, career women standing in front of me right now. 40, 50 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the culture. So the way that we adapt to society has been dictating, the values that we bring or we take from the church.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Well, I can agree with that. I think that as a society, I think the church works better for young adults who are married with kids, if that makes sense. Because I think how the church views young adults might be like, okay, well, maybe they'll come back, whenever they get married and they have kids, they'll come back. Does that make sense? Like, it kind of dismisses the young adult, like they'll get it later, it's fine, they'll come back. But that kind of like defeats the purpose, I feel like, because these days people aren't on a traditional track in life. Those traditional, like, okay, you leave home, you get an education, you get married, you have kids, like that's not happening. Some of those things are delayed or not happening at all. And so I think, we just have to be more mindful of those things. But anyways, what were you gonna say, Andy?
I was gonna ask, you said that it's more for the married with kids type. So would you say that that's a biblical value or a Christian value?
I'm just saying that's how. What do you mean biblical or Christian value? Say that. What do you mean?
Because like the way you worded it is that the church is for, it's
no, not
set up
for the church is. The church is for everybody. Yeah, I'm saying like the church works for the traditional young adult who has, got married and had kids before the age of 30. You know what I mean? Because they're on that traditional track and they feel like they can like cater to them more. Does that make sense?
So I have a question then.
No? What's your question?
I got a question. Okay, so are young adults really seen as like real adults? Because it seems like we're kind of in limbo. We're not kids, but we're not real adults, I guess. So when it comes to the church and it comes with their interaction with us, it's almost like they really don't know what to do with us. Because we're not kids, but we're not like grown-ups in a sense. Like, am I making sense here? Because it's kind of like
so what I would say, I kind of understand where you're coming from in that perspective, but I think that that's where representation matters. I think that the first the church has to be open to younger leaders. And allowing younger leaders to kind of step into those roles that will make church per se a more inviting culture for younger adults, so that you have those type of ideas that goes around through and you can kind of build church culture off of the people that they're. Now, if you have the traditional leadership, which is your older Christian, Baptist, if they've been pastoring or in that church for 40 years, you may feel like that's not, I don't see representation of me there. And that's where I would challenge, us as a community, not just specifically any individual church, but as a community, we need that young adult to be in ministry to kind of branch off and make church more welcoming for younger adults.
Yeah,
So
and
how do
it's
we make
almost
that happen?
like, well, to be honest with you, the older generation has to accept that the young adults' values are different from theirs. Their style is different from theirs. Culture is different from theirs. You can't push us and force us to be what you are, because then you're gonna push us right out the door. We're gonna leave. And then, like Kendra said, we're gonna come back when we married with kids, because then now we're kind of
It just
pushing
settle
more
down.
towards where
But
you
then at
at.
that point,
Yeah, I
at
can
that
settle
point,
down
we.
now, you know.
But will you want to come
Well,
back at
God,
that point, though?
Some won't. Some won't, but I feel like some will, because like you said, some of them married with kids, but then some of them may have it in their mind, well, yeah, I don't like what they got going on. But that's why I say it's the values. Like my generation, we not like the 40 plus generation. That's not us. We're not gonna mesh. And that's fine. However, if you kind of see, okay, that's her style, I can get with it, I can respect your style, we can coexist.
oh, okay. Sorry about that. I was reading the question on the bottom.
Oh,
I mean, if was anybody else wanted to, before I move to this next question, y'all ready to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So it says, why is there a distinct between biblical and Christian values? If there is a distinction, what is an example of a distinction? So I guess distinction would be different. And so I asked the question, you know what I mean? Is there a difference? Should there be a difference between Christian values and biblical values? So I posed that as a question, and I guess he's asking the same thing. I would like to throw it to y'all to see, you know, in the context of how y'all view and I'm asking specifically as a young Black female too, you know what I mean, because that's a specific culture in this country, you know, and as far as Christians goes. So like, do is it a difference? I'm asking, and it may be a loaded
Okay.
question, so don't be afraid. This is crucial
No, I
dialogue.
don't. I think, okay, so you might say there's biblical, like the Bible, and then you might say there's like the culture of Christianity, which would be different,
Yes.
right? So you have like, this is what you want people to see, and then behind closed doors, you're like not living up to, you know, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing in your walk with Christ. But you have like, you know, you kind of pick and choose what you want to do. So maybe that's the difference. I don't know. I was confused at first as well. But I can see a difference between like a culture of Christianity and biblical values, because there's a lot of people who say they're Christians but don't actually walk the
So
walk.
he's saying give an example. So I guess like, is anybody else? Cherie, I see you over there. Like you wanna jump in?
I don't think that there is a difference, because the definition of
It's not.
Christian, huh?
No, you said it's not, or it should not.
I say that there is no difference and there should not
It's
be
no
a
difference.
difference.
Okay. Gotcha.
The definition of Christian is Christ follower. So if you are a Christ follower, you are following the principles of the Bible. So how can we say that there's a difference between a biblical value and a Christian or a Christ follower's value, when a Christ follower's value should line up with the Bible? I would say there is no difference.
So, if I could be, I guess, play the opposite right now, I would say that culturally, Christianity is a religion, and therefore it has different ways of people enacting that religion. You know what I mean? So you have Baptist, and you have Protestant, you have Catholic, you have, you know, these are all denominations of Christianity, and not all of them line up with each other. Now, they all probably take forms of the Bible, to kind of justify their beliefs and their walk. But it is an Old Testament and it's a New Testament. So we was just learning about this in church this week about following Christ and then the rules of the Old Testament. You see what I mean? And so in some forms we have to see that the Bible is written and there were no Christians physically in the Bible, right? I don't think the Bible defines Christians, you know what I mean? And so I think that there is a difference, in my opinion, of biblical values and Christian values. I think that if you stick to the biblical values, you can't go wrong. But I do think that when you go into the religion part, as far as the different denominations of Christianity, and then you can just bring in a lot of other religions too, because the Old Testament is in the Quran too. So you have to acknowledge that there are some man values added to the religion values, I guess, if that's what I could put it.
So is it distinct that they're talking about, or could be talked about, would be like the Saturday night sinner and the Sunday morning Christian? Is that kind of what distinct y'all are? I'm just asking,
well, no,
because that would be.
I don't think they're saying distinct. I think he's just saying that, like Sister Sheree said, if you're looking at it from the premises of Jesus Christ and what he represented from the Bible and how he changed the way that God looked at us, like he sent his son to die on the cross to forgive us for our sins. Before that, there was rules, cutting off a goat, sacrifices, you know what I mean? There was things that man had to do to show their or gain their forgiveness, and then Christ came and he forgave us. He walked and he forgave us. So there are still values that we should, from the gospel, that we should have. But the ultimate goal is to believe that he came and died on the cross to forgive us for our sins. And so, like I say, when you start mixing religion into that, then man has to start stirring the pot, and I think that does take us away from just strictly biblical values.
But that's why I say it depends on what you consider a Christian, because I think the culture has considered a lot of denominations or religions Christianity, but I would say that it's not Christianity, because if you are not following Christ, then you are not a Christian. That's what the actual term means. And so when we get into like biblical values, yes, the New Testament or the Old Testament has some laws in it that we no longer necessarily follow. But I know that a lot of those laws and the way that Christ wants us to live today is cleared in the New Testament. So I would that depends on what you would say as a Christian, because you can't say that who follows Mary or prays to Mary, that's who they're believing in, that's who they are idolizing. If they are idolizing anyone other than Christ, then they are not a Christian. So if you say that, I follow Christianity, but I don't follow biblical values, well, you can't say that, because Christianity is biblical values. Christ said in Matthew, I came to culminate the law. So he is the law. That means that we're following him. That's who we follow. We have a backstory in the Old Testament, but now we are following primarily the New Testament, because that's when Jesus shows up. And so I wouldn't say that there's a difference between following the Bible and following Christ.
Well, that kind of answered Trevor's question at the bottom.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have another question from the guest, and while we're reading this song, like all of our viewers out there, if you like to chime in to the conversation, we like to get your input. Don't forget to like and subscribe for Crucial Dialogue to get more content. But I'm gonna read off Brother Blaylock's comment. It said, "Was the law meant to save or show?" Went away from me.
To show we need a savior.
Or show we need a savior. Okay, yeah. So was the law meant to save or show we need a savior? That's a good question.
Cherie kind of answered it. She said that God, Jesus came, he is the law. We follow, and we, like you said, we got a backstory, and now this is what it is. So I guess it shows that, we did need a savior.
See, me, I always think that God had hope. He just wished that man would get right. You know what I mean? So you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Yeah, but we just can't get right, boss.
God knew his plan from the beginning, right?
What's gonna happen?
What he was gonna do from the beginning.
All right, like I say,
right.
we're drilling into the biblical values for everybody that chimed in a little bit late. Biblical values, and we're looking at it from a young adult perspective. Any comments or anybody wants to take the conversation to a different direction, or?
We can talk about why young adults are falling off from church.
So why do you think that is? That's a good conversation.
Oh, there's a lot of
reasons
for that.
Stronger.
Wait, how much time we got left, Mr. Producer? Because I got a book on that.
I could write a book on that one as well.
How about we frame it in more of a solution manner then? We could tell why they're falling off. Well, what can we do to keep them there or get them more engaged?
I think
adapt.
Like we. Well, no.
That's number one.
I don't know about adapting. I don't know about that.
No, not us. Them.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't know about the church adapting to us. That doesn't seem right. It seems that feels like they would be catering to us and then not the older generation. That's not right. Right? So we need to have, instead of like passing the baton type mentality, maybe like, bridging the gap between the older and the younger, who are able to do stuff together. Does that make sense? Because
it does.
Because if we cater towards young adults, then that means that we're catering to a group of people and not to God's word. You know? And I know Pastor White always says this. Pastor White always says this, he wants us to feel comfortable and like we have a safe place to be, but at the same time, like the word should be the thing that's drawing people in. And I get the adaptation thing, right? Because then you get churches like Elevation. I'm not trying to call people out. I'm sorry, but then you get churches that are geared towards more young adults, but maybe not necessarily biblically sound all the time. And so we don't want to be like that. Like sometimes that stuff sounds really nice, but yeah.
So I get what you're saying. I guess what I'm saying is, so you said something that Pastor said. He also said, if you're not getting fed here, or if this is not the place for you to go. So, and I say that to say, and when I say the word adapt, I mean more so like, if the world is evolving with technology, why does the church still live in 50 years ago? Now, yes, the word should bring us in, but I just feel like when it comes to how we're receiving the word, or, when we do activities to bridge that gap, it shouldn't just be one-sided. I just feel like whether it's the youth, the young adults, or, the real adults, I'm going to call them the real adults. we got to all get together some.
I'm a real adult.
You a real adult. We the limbo.
I'm a real boy.
We the pretend adult.
You're a real boy.
I just feel like when it comes to us doing stuff together, it shouldn't be so like, oh, this group is having fun, but this group is here because we were asked to be here, because they want us here. It's not because we want to be here, it's because they want us here. That's what I mean.
Well, we just stuff like that all the time with the old generation, I think. I don't
I think that it goes back to representation in leadership as well. There are some things to be said about the structures of church. You know what I mean? That allows certain departments to flourish and others not. The focus being on certain departments and when I say departments, I'm just saying sections of the church that keep it moving, keep it running. And so, if you invested in that, as far as invested in the young adults, then I think that you could get a response back from them. But as far as keeping it biblical and fun, I think that that's the toss-up part. You know what I mean? Like how do you huh?
So what's fun though?
Well, I mean, I think that in certain scenarios, you can make, you can have fun at church. You can have fun at church, but that does speak to the culture. If you're having fun, somebody else might think or might be uncomfortable. You know what I mean? With the way that you like to have fun. So that I think that's speaking to what you said, Sister Sherelle, as far as the different generations go. But we got another comment on the board. It says, you guys mentioned how churches struggle to stay connected with young adults. What personally keeps you from disconnecting from your church? So I guess it's just a testimony that we're asking for you guys to just say, hey, what is it in it that you guys are doing, or what is going on in the churches that you guys go to, or church that we're at, that keeps y'all engaged?
I'll go last.
For me personally, it has a lot less to do with the church and a lot more to do with my own walk. I don't know if it's just me, but I would say that being disconnected from the church has a lot more to do with your own walk with Christ rather than what's going on in the church. Because at the end of the day, the church is filled with people who need help. That's what the church is. And I think a lot of people come to church with a different expectation. They think that it's going to be filled with perfect people. And that's just not the case. It's the exact opposite. So you cannot go to church and expect to, you can't expect for it to be sunshine and rainbows. People are going to be who they are outside of the church. Well, they're coming as themselves. So I think that you have to have a relationship with Christ, and you have to at least want that relationship to be able to be connected.
So I was reading some statistics earlier, and I agree with everything you said, Cherie, by the way. I think it does have a lot to do with our walk with Christ. But to give another perspective, I guess, I was reading some statistics about why young adults aren't going to church. And they said a quarter of young adults said faith has nothing to do with my career or my interests. And that to me read, young adults are selfish. And I think I saw Trevor put on here something about service. And I don't think people want to come to church and do any work. I think we think, okay, well, this isn't really doing anything for me, so I have to do work. I don't want to do that. I already work a 9 to 5. I'm good. There's a lot of stuff, that might be asked of you if you join Christian Bible Church. You already know. When you join a church, you have to do work. So I think
it's a choice. I agree with what you just said, Sister Kendra. I think that the if we looked at the reasons why, you said that young adults are what was the word you used? Selfish. I would say Americans, period, are entitled. I think that the systems that we grow up in, and you hear me talk about systems a lot, and with the systems that we grow up in, is we're not teaching the word. We're not teaching biblical values from a younger age. So and the way that we're teaching our kids is more to assimilate, and that's why a lot of religions are dangerous, because the system from the ground up is indoctrinating our kids to assimilate into another system, versus just speaking or teaching the word and having more of a spiritual relationship with God and with Christ as you move through grade school. That's not there. And so if you're going to school, going home, and then you get to become an adult, and that turns into going to work and going home. Now, if you had somebody in your life as an earlier, that kind of fed you some seeds that grew up and you understood God and you wanted to go to church, but with the way the distractions are in life today, I mean, I find it hard if you don't have a family
Foundation.
that's that's in church. I struggle to see how they would even be, I guess you could say, initiated into a religion, or where would they even see it at? Because you don't see it on TV. It ain't a lot of infomercials on going to church. Now I see a lot of billboards and stuff like that driving around, but if mom and dad or grandma or somebody is not going to church, it's a slim chance that you would even be you would know that world even exists, and that's what's dangerous.
Well,
I wanted to.
They're supposed to get it
go ahead.
from us. I was just gonna say, to respond to that, they're supposed to get it from us, right? We're supposed to be telling them, right, and showing them with how we live our lives. I think, who Christ is. So while I agree it would be difficult, if you don't have that upbringing, I think that we're supposed to be ambassadors for Christ and, bringing people to the church. So anyways, go ahead, Jamel.
We had a couple more questions that came in. I know Brother Dwight put a question up, and I want to see if we can get to those questions before we get out. All right, he said, what does it truly mean not to get fed? Because people saying they're not getting fed, but they not connected to anything to begin with, to get an opportunity to get fed. So I guess he's saying, what does it mean to get fed? And the people that's saying that they not getting fed, they not even going to the table to eat.
Pick me, please. I wanted to answer that because it's been times where I was not getting fed. And I say this because I'm very well connected in the church. I was young adult leader, connected with the young adults, praise dance, did mime, sound booth, helped with anniversaries, all this stuff. I was everywhere in the church, but I was still not being fed the way I needed to be fed. And it all goes back to my walk. It all goes back to what I'm dealing with mentally, personally, and all that stuff. Now, you can say, well, you're at the church, you got all these people to talk to. Well, that also goes back to that generational gap. A lot of things that young adults deal with, the next generation did not deal with that until they were probably in their 30s. Some of the stuff that they dealt with in their 30s, I dealt with at 18. So, and that's also, if you go back to the youth, a lot of stuff that young adults dealt with at 25, they dealing with at 15. It's just a little gap right there. So if I say I'm dealing with this, I don't think it will be received. Well, actually, I have spoke out on it before, and it wasn't received properly, in my opinion. I didn't get the proper help that I needed. So my result was to take a step back to get me together. Now, the young adults y'all my ride or die. I love y'all to death. Y'all have always been there. But personally, I had to take a step back. And like Kendra said earlier, people don't want to come to church to work. I work a 12-hour day job. And then I get off work and have to go to meetings and all this stuff. I could not mentally do it. So I had to take a step back. So that's what I say when I say I'm not getting fed, or when I say some young adults just can't do church sometimes. It's just a lot because our lives are all over the place. Because we're not really adults.
Like young adults gotta get a couple classes on work-life balance, and then
yeah, we really need that. We need that.
No, but
and really,
I feel like
mental health needs to be speaked on more within young adults, especially since COVID is just now kind of sort of ending. But yeah, in general, we really need that. Like, yeah.
Well, you just brought up something completely. So she just brought something completely different with the mental health. But I was going to say something about getting fed. So I was thinking more of like along the lines of the word. Like, are we getting fed like spiritually through the word? I don't think anyone that goes to Christian Bible can say they're not getting fed from the word. Amen. With how much our pastor is in that word, like that man is studying all the time, and he's given us stuff directly that he's gotten from God. And I really feel like I just don't feel like we could say we're not getting fed from when it comes to his teaching. Personally, that's
let me clarify then.
See, I know you were coming from a different angle, so that's why I know you were coming from a different
I just want to clarify that, Pastor.
Yeah, I love you, Pastor White. I love you, Pastor White.
He gonna call our phone tonight.
So when Dwight asked, what does it mean to not be fed? To me, if I go to a church and there's a lot of distraction, like from the pastor, then I'm not being fed. If there's a lot of hoops and haws and too much of trying to grab everyone's attention, I understand that you have to grab attention to a certain level. Like there's a certain extent that you go to grab an unbeliever's attention. But I can say that especially in today's time, a lot of pastors are distracted. And at that point, I'm not being fed. You're reading the Bible, you're motivationally speaking. That's what I would say it means to not be fed. If you're not teaching me anything from the word, if you're going just straight off of, what you think will make people feel good, I'm not being fed.
So just so I could give some clarity to those that may not necessarily be with the culture, not being fed is saying that you're not receiving any good information from the time that you spend in church, and you're not developing as a Christian. I think that just to break down the context of not being fed, because some people may have missed that. And so we're just speaking on just how they perceive that to happen in church today. Because, if you're not being blessed in church, then you most definitely need to find somewhere that will bless you. I got another man, y'all hitting us on the comments today. So here's another one that says, in your everyday walk, how do you portray yourself as a Christian follower? So that's another one of those hey, how do you do what you do when you do it?
I would say it goes back to I would say it goes back to those values that we talked about at the beginning. Love is the most important one to me. I know Sherelle mentioned forgiveness, but forgiveness cannot come without love. It takes love for everything that you need to do. And
that's Sheree, I'm gonna interject real quick, because we talking about your everyday walk now. Now, love, you going into that work. You going into that workplace with that on you.
With love?
Yes, absolutely.
I do go into my workplace with love because I work with children.
Yes.
So there's no way I could work with children without that.
Y'all. But these people hard to love at the job. I'm just saying.
People are hard to love, and I can't say that I've always loved people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that this is how we're supposed to portray ourselves. I think that
the question is in your everyday walk. That's why I'm trying to make sure that we don't go into we know what we're supposed to do. But the struggle is real. The struggle is real. So when you put on your clothes and you walk out that door, I think that she asked, or the viewer is asking, like, how do you portray yourself as a Christian follower? And to me, I think that that's a fairly loaded question. You know what I mean? because each one of us have individual walks. And so, and all of us, even, you know, me as a black man, I do some code switching. When I get into the work, I gotta come down a little bit and then conform to what's going on. And so as me, I'm gonna take every opportunity that I get to talk to someone about, you know, something that God put me through to help them with. You know, those things come up a lot where you've had an experience and then somebody's going through it, you know. And so if you take those opportunities to engage and then just be unapologetic about how Christ has moved you, I think that a lot of people will respond to those people that are actually unapologetically Christ followers. Because like y'all said, as far as young adults, man, it's a lot of people out there that's gonna hit you with the, why you believe in this? Why you believe in that? Oh, this supposed to be like this. Oh, you don't know nothing about this. And then a lot of times you're not equipped to say nothing back, you know, but that's why we got to get into the word and have a pastor that can help break down some of those barriers, and then go to, you know, some discipleship classes. You know, one thing about Christian Bible is that, you know, we go through classes. We're not just going to church on Wednesdays and Sundays. You know, we have actually classes and certifications and certificates that you receive for reading studies. And so, you know, we go outside the box. But we're gonna get ready to wrap it up. I got one more question down here at the bottom. Sister Burrell said, okay, it said mental health is dealt with as you abide. Stay close to Christ in his word and prayer. It is not a separate issue. See Psalms 119 and 119, 48 and 50. And that's a blessing word from our Pastor Gambrell, co-host on Crucial Dialogue. You know, he's always gonna drop those nuggets and seeds, because mental health is a real issue out there, and you know, God can't help with that, you know. And so, you know, we just want to make sure that we continue to bless. I hope some people out there got fed from the show today. I'm gonna go down the list. It looked like Sister Cherie, and everybody out there say a small prayer, because Sister Cherie has some tornadoes in her area. So just pray that she's doing all right and everything's good once we get back in touch with her. But Sister Sherelle, if y'all can, I'm gonna start with you. Closing notes, biblical values.
So, my closing remarks are: as a young adult, I do feel like I'm in limbo sometimes when it comes to church. I think when it comes to meshing with the youth, or whether, well, not really so much the youth, but more so the older generation, I think there's a gap. But what I can say is, when it comes to being connected as a young adult with other young adults, I could not have talked to them in months. Trevor and Kendra are gonna call my phone. Hey, how you doing? You good? I'm telling you, they do not miss a beat, and I love it. I truly love it, Kendra. I really do, because sometimes I could be having a bad day, and I see Kendra Blaylock on my phone saying, "Hey, girl, we got a class tonight. We got a meet tonight. See you at 7." I'm like, I love Kendra. So it's very important that
it ain't me.
Yes,
that's God.
Yes, you guys. No, seriously. But it's very important that you do get connected within the church, because at the end of the day, even if you do take a step back from church, those people will still reach out to you and check on you and make sure you're okay. And I really appreciate that from you guys.
They gonna make me cry.
All right, Sister Kendra.
Sherelle got me over here. I'm about to get teary-eyed over here. Oh my God. Love you, girl. Anyways, to wrap it up, yeah, we could talk about this. We could talk about this for hours. But to wrap up my thoughts, young adults are, and to restate the problem, I guess young adults are leaving the church at rapid rates, and they are not seeing the value in the Word of God. And so I guess this is very hard to wrap up in a few seconds. But anyways, I would say, like we talked about earlier, I would say we need to, with the young adults that we have, create a connection between the older and younger generation, so that we have one body of Christ and not just a bunch of different separate entities within the church, because that can kind of, make us feel separated in a sense. And we want to feel like one body that is working to, do the Lord's work. So anyways, that's what I would say as a wrap up scenario. So.
All right. Well, I sure appreciate everybody for joining us today. If I could sum it up as far as the young adults are saying and what they're asking, it's a song. It says, "I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way."
I like that song.
And so we're going to sign out on Crucial Dialogue today. Like I say a prayer out for Sister Cherie. And see y'all next time.
This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Make sure you never miss a show by joining us on Mondays at 6 p.m. by going to our website, powerhouseoflove.org, our YouTube and Facebook channel, or the Google and Apple Podcasts. Hope you tune in next time.